Hey everyone, it's Nick from Nick's Crossing. Welcome back to the train room for another review today. Just picked up a really cool engine, so here we go. All aboard. Alright guys, so have you ever been to a train store and you're just there looking around, you're not intending to buy anything big, maybe looking for some smoke fluid or a new remote or, some tools or so, or just a new car, just a simple rail car like this for 20 bucks or something like that. Then you stumble across, a big orange box that says, Lionel trains, and it's in a hiding spot in the store. And then you talk to someone at the store. They said, oh, well, that hasn't been there very long. So, yeah, that happened to me last weekend. I went to White Rose Hobbies up in York, Pennsylvania, off of Route 30. Fantastic shop. They have tons of model trains, HO, a lot of HO, N-scale, O-scale, garden stuff, then lots of RC cars and things like that. And I saw this orange box under the table, and I read this description, and I had to look at the box. So, here we go. 484 Norfolk and Western J, locomotive and tender, AC Pullmore operating smoke, die-cast metal body, magna traction, illuminated number boards, tender features rail sounds, and die-cast body. So, I opened this up and asked one of the attendants there, hey, can you give this a test run? And he said, sure, and I fell in love with it instantly. So for 200 bucks, I got a J-Class semi-scale with rail sounds too. So yeah, I'm behind the times with the rail sounds, but this engine is just so cool. So let's pull her around really quick. Let's get her in the yard for a review. Alright guys, so I bought a J-Class N&W number 612, and she is a beaut. It's a legend. It's kind of a living ghost in my layout because 612 is no longer with us, and her sister 611 is still alive today, both in the same third rendition of the J-Class built in 1950. It's pretty crazy. This locomotive is actually designed after a 746, which is a post-war Lionel J-Class locomotive that was extremely popular, and if you can find one to this day, they bring in a pretty penny. I've seen them go for several $100 up to a couple, $1,000+ for the locomotive and tender, and that just says 746 with an air whistle. Pretty crazy. But guys, this locomotive has an extremely vast operating history. I'm just going to go over some of the builder stats, things like that, the fun numbers, and a little bit of the backstory. So the J-Class were created in 1941 to 1950, 3 separate generations of the J-Class with minor improvements in between. So like bearings and the way things were heated and updates. And 1941, you get the J-Class pulling 3 major fast passenger services from Norfolk, Virginia to Cincinnati, Ohio. And these were called the Powhatan Arrow. You also had the Pocahontas. Then you also had the Cavalier, and these trains were extremely famous, fast, passenger, luxurious trains. Pretty cool. Now, I have also heard that these locomotives were used for local freight towards their end of service, unfortunately due to the dieselization of the American railroads. Alright guys, so we're going to get into some stats here. I love reading stats on these old locomotives, like the speed, the weight, all that fun stuff. So let's get into it. So she's 109 feet long, 11 feet 2 inches wide. That's a big girl. It's a very big girl. I remember going out to see 611. I was just like, whoa, this engine is huge. So it's 16 feet tall. This is nuts. Let's go to the locomotive weight. Well, there's the tender and locomotive weight, but the total weight is 872,600 pounds. 395.8 tons. That's crazy. She is coal-fired. She has a stoker system. And I remember last year when they brought her to Strasburg, the stoker was stoked, I guess you could call it. It was a whole repair deal, and it was delayed and all that. I saw some pictures online. It looked like a piece of Swiss cheese. Used and abused. She can hold up to, it says 20,000 gallons. It's pretty crazy. Let's go down to some more stats here. we like to know about speed, right? Speed's cool. And it says the max speed is 110 miles per hour. I believe that's tested speed. I wonder if she could go faster than that on like a racetrack out west or something. That'd be really cool to see. And guys, the craziest stat of them all, I was looking for it on here. There's so many numbers and everything. 5,100 horsepower, which is just like stacking. It'd be like stacking 3 or 4 GP9s back to back to back with another GP9 on top, just stacking those from vintage locomotives from around the same time, 1950. Yeah, that's nuts. 5,100 horsepower. That's insane. So I do encourage you to look up the history of the J-Class locomotive. It is like forever long. You can look up all the specs and everything, what they did in modifications, all of that. Yeah, I just really want to run this train for you guys. So look up the J-Class history. It is a lot of fun just to see all of the different features they added, the upgrades, where they ran, when they were scrapped, all of that history. Easily found online. People have written books and books and books on these locomotives. So the good news is today we have 611, which is at Strasbourg, right there on my shirt. And she is getting an overhaul. I had a friend that was out there doing the shop tour recently, and all the shrouding was off, so it was kind of like a naked J, unshrouded J, which would be really cool if Strasbourg ran an excursion without the shrouding on. That'd be a really high-ticket item right there. But yeah, the 611 is at Strasbourg and is the surviving sister of all 14 of these J-Class locomotives. So only one lives. So there's only 13, and a lot of odd numbers there. 611 and 13 have perished. Now, I have heard from local historians that the reason why the J-Class 611 is still around today is mostly because of a chain of like accidents that happened, basically rolling off a mountain into a river or falling into a river. They were able to do a lot of modifications which helped prolong the life of 611. Now, in the 1960s, she was taken from service and placed in the Virginia Museum of Transportation, and then in 1982 she was fired up to be part of Norfolk Southern Steam Program, and then VMT got it back, Virginia Museum of Transportation, and they did some excursion work at Strasbourg, and now she is residing at Strasbourg until whenever. I hope they keep her. I think she's in a good home. It's a fantastic machine, and everyone I've talked to at Strasbourg has said 611 is just such an amazing piece of locomotive history. It operates very smoothly. It's like the peak of steam technology. It's an icon. It's a legend right there on their rails. Alright guys, so here is 612 Trackside, and she is looking fantastic. Now this locomotive is actually modeled sort of a carbon copy of the Lionel 746 from the 1950s. So Variation A was actually built in 1957 and 1958, and it had a shortened stamped tender according to Tandem Associates. So the picture that I can show you guys right here, and I'll compare it to my J-Class right here. So theirs isn't as far down as mine's fully striped through the entire tender. Theirs cut off. Now Variation B kind of fixed that, and it was all rubber stamping compared to my model's all painted. There's also a variation in the color. So mine is more of a gold, and I guess you'd call it a Tuscan red, like that N&W Tuscan in there with the gold. Theirs is more of a red and yellowish color. So they changed up the color a little bit, but minus all of the modern-esque parts like the electronic reverse unit, the whistle, the smoke unit, and the bell and all of that. This is just like a 746. It has a big pull-more in the back. Looks just like my 736 if you turn it around inside the cab. It is just a really cool piece. So I did do some modifications to this locomotive to help her out. So I had this locomotive on the test stand to just go through it, make sure everything was lubricated and all that. It probably hasn't been open since the time of manufacturing, so 25 plus years. And I looked in the smoke unit, and it wasn't smoking. I was like, what's going on with this thing? So I look underneath, and the chuff unit had 2 circles and a ball bearing. And the ball bearing is supposed to move to create a vacuum to draw air, and then push air up through the smoke box here and out the stack. One of the ball bearings is lodged inside this smoke unit. That plastic smoke unit in this unit was so hot, it was able to launch the ball bearing in and block the hole for the chuff unit where the batting material is and all of that. So I did something else. I drilled a hole through the smoke box to the smoke bowl of this locomotive, and then I also sealed up both holes on the chuff unit to push more air out. It works perfectly fine. It's not overheating or anything. And this locomotive also features cylinder steam. So there's these two giant tubes that come off the top of the smokestack here, and they go down to the pistons. It gives a cool effect. Then also the headlight, I can show you guys that right here. The headlight has been modded to an LED. So we go track 2 here. So I decided to put LEDs in this locomotive. So the number boards are an amber color and the headlight is a nice white color right there. Everything else on this locomotive is original, and there is a battery in the tender for the rail sound. So if I turn her off, the rail sounds take a little bit to cut out. Alright, so while we're here, let's fire her up again and let's take her out. There's the bell for you guys. And let's take her out. And let's bring her back. And before we go for the run session, I wanted to go over some of the details here. So everything on here is pretty much die-cast or metal. So the body of this, all of your gears, wheels, the wheels have magnet traction, which is fantastic if you have ferrous track. I'm running on MTH real track, so it does not work out as well. Full metal die-cast tender, 6-wheel truck, so you have a 12-wheel tender. Everything in here is just metal. I love it. The pull-more motor is easily accessible in the back, so if you have to do any maintenance, it's all right there. The shell comes off with 3 screws. Just tons of stamped detail in here. The smoke unit will fill this whole room up with smoke. I love that. It's a fantastic locomotive. Alright guys, one thing I forgot to mention, while the engine is in motion, it plays different whistles. So there's a steam blow off real quick. So while it's in station or stopped, or stationary, it plays like a short burst. So let's get her moving. Plays a little bit of a different style whistle, so let's bring her back around at a moderate speed. As you guys can hear that the whistle is responsive to speed, which I thought was really cool. Alright guys, so I think we're ready for a run session. So we got 4 Pennsylvania Railroad passenger cars. Well, 1 baggage, 3 passenger. We have a coach, baggage, observation dome, and also the party car in the back. So here we go guys, all aboard. Alright everyone, so that's going to conclude this video of my newly acquired N&W J-Class number 612 from Lionel, all the way back in the mid-1990s. It's a cool little runner. With the modifications I did, I love those LEDs in there with the number boards, a different color than the headlight. The halogen light it came with actually burned out when I was doing testing, so probably the skin oil or something, I have no idea. It just went tink and clicked out, and I was like, okay, well, I don't have a halogen light, and that draws a lot of heat on the plastic smoke unit, so I tore that out. I just lifted it up and threw it away, and I put in EVA model LEDs. It was a really easy modification. I've used their products many times before, so there's 3 LEDs in the nose cone of my 612. But what do we call 612? 611's the Queen of Steam, the Spirit of Roanoke. What do I call my 612? Tell me in comments, guys. I love to hear it. Love reading the comments. Giving the video one of these really helps out as well. This is a really cool locomotive, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. I had a great time making it. Until next time, everyone, happy railroading, and we'll see you next time. See you guys.